What to do when you grow older and find yourself alone? When you grow older and find yourself alone, the silence can feel louder than ever. It isn't just the quiet of an empty room. It's the absence of familiar footsteps, shared meals, and voices that once filled the air with laughter and love. For many, aging brings unexpected solitude. Children grow up and move away, loved ones pass on, and the once busy rhythm of life slows into something unfamiliar. But within that stillness, there is also space to listen to your own thoughts, to rediscover forgotten parts of yourself, and to begin again in a different way. Growing older alone does not mean your life has stopped holding meaning. In fact, it can become a time of powerful transformation. Through grief, change, and even heartbreak, there lies the chance to find peace, joy, and a deeper connection to life. When you choose to open your heart again, whether by reaching out, sharing your story, or simply taking a walk through your neighborhood, you take the first step toward rebuilding purpose. You may be alone, but you are not without strength, nor without the capacity to love again. Your later years still hold the power to surprise you, to heal you, and to fill your life with something beautiful. 1. Acknowledge the silence, but don't settle in it. The first and hardest truth to face when growing older is the silence that follows you into an empty room. It's not just about the absence of sound. It's the absence of being needed, of being called upon, of being someone's first thought in the morning or their comfort at night. When you've spent a lifetime giving yourself to others, your children, your spouse, your career, there comes a moment when all of that falls quiet. It's in that moment you realize that loneliness in old age is not simply about being alone. It's about feeling invisible. But hidden within that silence is a quiet invitation. The invitation to turn inward and begin rediscovering the person you once were, beyond the titles of parent, partner, or provider. It's the beginning of a new relationship with yourself. Though it may feel unfamiliar and even painful, this space can become sacred. It allows you to rest without guilt, to dream without boundaries, and to rebuild your life on your own terms. This isn't the end of your story. It's the chance to write a new chapter where you are not forgotten but deeply remembered by yourself. And in that remembering, something beautiful begins to bloom again. 2. Reach out in simple, meaningful ways. Loneliness often convinces us that no one wants to hear from us anymore. It whispers that time has passed, that friendships have faded, and that our stories no longer matter. But the truth is, connection doesn't need to be grand or dramatic. It just needs to be real. A single letter, a phone call, a smile offered to a neighbor on the sidewalk. These small gestures carry tremendous power. When you reach out, not with expectation, but with sincerity, you open a door that someone else may have been waiting a long time to walk through. Reconnection can happen in the quietest moments. A shared memory in a handwritten card. A laugh over coffee with someone you hadn't seen in years. These simple acts of reaching out create ripples that touch hearts, even if you can't see it right away. As we age, it becomes even more important to nurture the relationships that once gave us life and to seek out new ones that may surprise us with joy. You don't have to wait for someone to find you. You have the power to begin. Even one heartfelt conversation can remind you that you are still seen, still needed, and still deeply valued. 3. Share your story and let others in. There is something sacred about the stories we carry, the memories, the lessons, the quiet truths we've gathered over a lifetime. As we grow older, it's easy to believe that no one wants to hear them anymore. But nothing could be further from the truth. Your story matters. It's a bridge to others, especially to those who are also searching for meaning, comfort, or simply a voice that understands. Sharing your story isn't about reliving the past. It's about making sense of it, honoring it, in passing on the wisdom it holds. Whether through writing, speaking, or even casual conversation, opening up allows others to see you, not just as someone older, but as someone who has lived, loved, struggled, and survived. And when you share, something beautiful happens. People begin to share back. A connection forms, often unspoken, rooted in common experience and gentle understanding. Vulnerability turns into strength, and loneliness turns into companionship. In every community center, library, cafe, or porch swing, there's someone waiting to feel less alone. Sometimes all it takes is one brave story, yours, to remind someone else that they're not walking this path by themselves. And in giving that comfort, you find it too. 4. Create a new circle of companionship. One of the most difficult realizations in later life is that some of the people who once filled your days with warmth are no longer by your side. Some moved away, others grew distant, and a few were lost to time. But just because the cast of your life has changed doesn't mean the play is over. Companionship can be found again, often in the most unexpected places. It may begin with a kind word exchanged with a neighbor or a shared hobby at a local community center. It might look like hosting a small gathering where everyone brings a memory and a meal to share. What matters most is the courage to begin again, to open your heart not just to people, but to possibility. These new connections may not look like the ones you once knew, but they can bring just as much joy, laughter, and comfort. A new circle doesn't replace what you've lost. It simply adds more life to your present. There's no age limit on friendship, no expiration date on belonging. With each handshake, shared meal, or quiet conversation, you're reminded that companionship is still possible. Sometimes all it takes is one open door to let the light back in. 5. Let grief walk beside you, not lead the way. Grief in old age is a different kind of ache. It doesn't come with loud sobs or sudden breakdowns. It settles quietly into the corners of your life. It shows up in the silence after dinner, in the way the light falls on an empty chair, in the instinct to reach for a hand that is no longer there. But grief, as heavy as it feels, does not mean you've stopped living. It means you love deeply, and that love has carved a space that no one else can fill. Still, even in that emptiness, there's room for life to grow again. Letting grief walk beside you doesn't mean forgetting. It means honoring what was while making space for what still can be. When you open your heart to new friendships, new routines, or even simple joys like morning sunshine or the sound of music, you're not betraying the one you lost. You're continuing the story they were a part of. Healing doesn't always arrive with big changes. Sometimes it's a quiet acceptance, a moment of peace between tears, a laugh you didn't expect. In time, the pain softens, and in its place, love remains, not as absence, but as presence in a new form. 6. Embrace the power of this chapter. There comes a point in life when we stop measuring time in milestones and start feeling its weight in moments. In the quiet of older age, when the house is still and the phone doesn't ring as often, it's easy to believe your best years are behind you. But what if this chapter, this slower, softer season, is where the real beauty lives? Aging is not the end of your story. It's a powerful beginning of a different kind. It's a chance to see the world not through urgency, but through understanding. You begin to value depth over speed, truth over appearances, and presence over performance. This is the time to choose how you want to live, not for anyone else, but for yourself. Maybe it's learning something new, writing your story, mentoring someone who needs your wisdom, or simply sitting beneath a tree and letting the breeze remind you that you're still very much alive. There is purpose in this part of life. There is power in your quiet strength. You're not fading. You're becoming more of who you were always meant to be. Let this chapter unfold with intention, with heart, and with the grace that only time can give. Final thought. Your story isn't over. It's still being written. No matter how many years have passed, no matter how much you've lost or how quiet your life may feel right now, your story is still unfolding. These later chapters may look different than what came before, slower, softer, sometimes lonelier, but they hold just as much meaning. This is the part of life where your wisdom carries weight, where your presence is more than enough, and where your voice can reach someone who needs to hear that they are not alone. You have lived through joy, sorrow, love, and change. You've seen the seasons of life in their fullness. That matters, and it deserves to be shared. There is someone out there, maybe a neighbor, a friend, or even a stranger, who could find comfort in your journey. You have the power to remind others that hope can grow in the quiet, that love can return in unexpected ways, and that strength often lives in the softest places of the heart. If this message has stirred something within you, I invite you to share your story in the comments below. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to hear. You're still here, you still matter, and your story is far from over.